Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. If you're watching this on video, this is not a podcast. This is me on video talking about podcasting. If you want the podcast, go to podcastpontifications.com. It's like 83 episodes. You'll love it. Here we are at the end of 2018, and yet another giant pile of cash was just dumped onto the podcasting world. If you missed the news, there's a company called Acast, A-C-A-S-T. Acast just got $35 million, which brings their sum total for a Schedule C, or Series C, Schedule C, it's taxes. A Series C round, which brings, I believe, their total funding to somewhere in the neighborhood of $67 million. Now, what is Acast doing with that money? Well, that's a great question. Acast is a combination hosting company, podcast, media, and advertising company, as well as other businessy type models, which isn't that too far off from any of the companies that are out there. Right now, most of the companies that get involved in podcast hosting, or at least the big companies that are involved in podcast hosting, are also facilitating ad deals, facilitating, what's the word I'm looking for? Select? No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Private? That's not either. Windowing? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but, exclusive. There we go. I'll get to it eventually. Exclusive content deals which have money which flows back into the creator. Here we are again. And in fact, that's not the only one of these. I'm looking on Crunchbase right now, and there have been lots of different deals just this year that have flowed into podcasting. And here's the deal. For 2019 and beyond, there will be more. You know, this refound attention we've all had on podcasting, and those of us that have been doing it for a while, and those out there who might be watching who say, hey, or listening, hey, I want to get into podcasting. Well, that's because we've been talking about it quite a lot. And when we talk about things quite a lot and they start to get a lot of attention, money starts flowing to them. So, should you take advantage of these VC funds? Or more importantly, how can you, a podcaster, take advantage of these VC funds to possibly do crazy things like quit your day job? Well, let's talk about that for a moment. So I actually think that all of this VC money flowing into podcasting is a good thing. Now, I've been through this before. This is not my first time playing in the VC funds world. I lived through both bubbles, and then the various pops that have happened since, like 99, 2008, all those various things. I've seen this happen many, many, many times, and we're going to see it happening again. Here's the deal about VC funds, just so everybody understands, when we get us all on the playing field. Venture capital is looking for a gigantic, like 10 or nowadays 100 times return. So there's a very good chance of whatever VC money is betting on, there's a very good chance it's going to fail. Very good chance it's going to fail. Because they need one of those to turn around 100 times the deal, and it's all better. So when VC money flows into something like podcasting, it's okay to lose a lot of money for a long time. Now, VC managers aren't approaching individual podcasters unless you're gigantic and saying, here's some money. But they are funding lots of different initiatives out there, like Acast today, Anchor previously. Lots of other companies are getting this free money. Think about it that way. VC money, capital. It sits in there so they can do things like give away free hosting, like make super attractive advertising deals that are self-funded, just to get people in the habit of narrating ads from the podcaster's point of view and listening to ads from the podcast listener's point of view. And all sorts of weird experiments, like giving people 6 months salary to go and create some really cool and awesome content to see if we can build a big... Lots of cool things happen when VC money flows into podcasting. However, you should understand that quickly VC money dries up. It's not an unlimited well. And yes, I realize that Amazon.com took 20 years or whatever the number was to get profitable. Yeah, VC firms aren't letting things go along that long. They're looking for 5-year exits or less than that. They want to turn it around. And what can happen when things are turned around? Lots of various things. But as an individual podcaster, as someone who's thinking about doing this, VC funds bring a couple of things to the forefront. Now, number one is making things that used to cost money now suddenly be free. And that's a very simple way to do that. They get their $67 million and they say, we're going to put all these podcasters on our platform. We're not going to charge them the $5, $10, $20 a month. We're doing it for free. So we get a giant pile of people in there in our system so that now we can go back to our investors and say, see, we got traction. And it's wonderful. So they're going to court you. And I've seen lots of people making some jumps over to the free podcast hosting companies. But I don't want to make this a rant about free podcast hosting because here's the danger, right? What if the money dries up and they go away? Can you get your stuff back? What if some big firm, not just free hosting, forget the $20 a month because that's nothing, but what if you get approached by somebody and says, hey, we want to take your podcast that you've been producing and we want you to quit your day job. We want you to focus in on doing just this show. We'll give you all the money you need. We'll give you a year-long advance. Here's your check for, let's just pick a number of $150,000. Go for it. Make a podcast. Okay, great. You got to keep in mind that while you got $150,000 up front in advance, and really all you have to do is create content. Don't obviously break any of your contractual obligations with someone. At the end of the time, you want to keep going. And what happens when that $150,000 is not available to you next year? Authors deal with this all the time. You get this big, huge, fat advance, $250,000 to publish 3 books. And then if those 3 books don't earn back at least that much money for the publisher, they will not sign another check with you. They will not give you another check for that pile of money because they were speculating that you were going to do something great. So here's my advice with this VC money that's coming in. Definitely look at it. You should evaluate your choices. You should understand what's going on. And if somebody wants to hand you a big pile of money, I think you should seriously consider taking it. But you need to plan for the future. And you need to plan for the worst case future. And that is that after your $150,000, $250,000, which sounds like a huge amount of money, runs out, what is your fallback? If that company that you went with is no longer in business because they lost their venture capital funding, which is quite possible. In fact, it is the more likely scenario than not. What happens to your content? Did you quit a really good job so you could do this? Fine. Did you bank that money, which I know some really smart people who have done, and said, I'm going to leverage this capital myself to do what I have to do to make this work, but I'm also going to go launch a few other side projects with this money so that in the event that the VC capital does dry up, I have used the capital they gave me to create my own ventures that I am now going to work on making additional monies for me for the rest of my life. That's a much more applicable way, a smart way to approach VC funds. I don't get excited about $20 a month savings. I get excited about hundreds of thousands of dollars that I can invest, not just use to live off of, that I can invest in doing more interesting things with me, the podcaster, me, the vision and the dream and the ideas that I have, as long as there's some smart business behind it, as long as I've got a path to profitability that doesn't require me to hope that another venture capitalist is around the corner. We're all going to have to, many of us will have to face this as VC funds continue to pour into podcasting. Even businesses, even small business owners who want to do new things with their show might get approached by someone to offer them money. I think you should seriously consider it, but I think you need to look forward. And if you need help looking forward, as in what does this mean for me, the podcaster, after this money dries up, get in touch, would you? I launch podcasts for businesses, for professional service providers, and give them the strategy to keep things going for long, long term. You can reach me at evo@podcastlaunch.pro. Podcastlaunch.pro, that website features all of the services that I'm currently offering. Cool, huh? I'll be back tomorrow with yet another podcast pontifications. Cheers.